Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday afternoon as we bring news and politics live from downtown Providence. I'd like to welcome my first guest, former state representative, former Deputy Secretary of State, now heads up Stages of Freedom, Ray Rickman. Thank you for coming in, Ray.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to come in today following the piece that GoLocal had reported this morning. Now, this stems from an issue that had arisen recently here in Providence and Rhode Island, but is a longer lasting issue. This was the Providence Journal reporting that an act at the GAM Theater that was supposed to come in that had two actors in blackface, having actually had a rider that said they wouldn't perform in the blackface, but the show was canceled nonetheless. A picture had been brought to our attention of former Providence Journal reporter and now investigative contributor Jim Hummel in blackface from years ago. Between Megyn Kelly, between other issues of it around the country from students as well, are you surprised we're still talking about blackface in 2018?
No. People running around doing swastikas, they're putting crosses out. Blackface, amongst all those racist acts, it's not light, but it's not at the top of the list. But here's the problem. You get tired of it. You just, in the 60s, I thought, by the year 2000, everything will be perfect or quiet. Can you hear what I'm saying? I'm not like other people. They think there are no racists in America. I do. There are plenty of them. When I was a kid, 90% of white people were racist. They were, and in your face. Now, I'm reading something about Henry Ford, and he was quite the anti-Jewish person. And we think all this stuff's gone away, but in the 1940s, Ford had to defend himself once, and he started saying, oh, majority of people on my side hating Jews. And he was telling the truth, because Mr. Roosevelt, one of the great people of the world, wouldn't let the ship in with Jews on it because he was up for re-election and he was frightened. Mm-hmm. So this level of hatred and racism is deep in the American culture, and I'm not surprised when it comes up. I'd love to be. I'd love to say what a lot of people say, oops, is this still happening? Yes, it's happening. Normally quieter, not in public. What we're talking about with Hummel is 18, 19 years old.
20 years old.
And Looney Tunes, as late as 1980, trying to do this stuff in public. And then every once in a while you get it. So I'm not surprised by any of it. And I hope we get to people's excuses for doing it. You're the host, so you know.
No, you're like the excuses, because folks do say I was playing a character. These artists that saying I'm playing a character. Jim saying we were portraying Miami Vice. I mean, is it ever acceptable for a white person to be donning dark skin and blackface?
No. Every black person on the planet is offended by it, hurt by it. We ought to change this society, and people who are not stone cold racists should not be out doing these things. Then you come to the next thing, that they want to apologize for it, or it was a youthful indiscretion. Now, how racism can be a youthful indiscretion if you're over 5 years old, I don't know. But I have a lot of very interesting personal traits. I'm not into apologies. It's just a little set of words. It normally never equals the harm done. In the big newspaper, the Providence Journal, they get something wrong and they put in a correction, and the correction is always it's twice the size of a quarter, and I will bet you 3/4 of the people miss the correction. And I always think the correction ought to be a big box, says correction, correction. Well, that's what doing racist things is like. You do the racist thing, you hurt people's feelings, and then you say, oh, I'm sorry. Now, Mr. Trump says, it was just a joke. And it's not funny. So I always think when you do something bad and get caught, because they're not confessing, they're caught, I think you should do something good that equals it. And good is go over to the John Hope Center and volunteer. 120, maybe 20 years, but I'll take 100 hours of volunteering for old black folks at lunchtime. I'm serious. And if they did it, they could even brag about it and say, I am making amends for my youthful indiscretion. That's what I believe. I believe it really strongly that a couple words, I'm sorry, does not equal the harm.
And you talk about youthful indiscretions. One of the discussions we had prior to the show was this is not in a vacuum. We see this around the country, as we said in 2018. A lot of times youth, whether it's on high school campuses, college campuses, we do still see the blackface arising in 2018. I mean, is this a teaching moment as well? Anytime it arises, whether it's a past incident, current incident,
Yes.
so, here we are. We say it's 2018. We've been around a little while, some a little longer than others, but
Don't point at me.
but between the new generation, next generations who might know of it or hear of it in history books, but somehow continually keep doing it.
So racism is taught. It's not a natural trait. People are not born racist. Now, by taught, the parents are teaching it, the aunts teaching it, the uncles teaching it, maybe the big brother's teaching it, certainly television, movies, teaching it. And racism can be, I say, simply uncomplicated. Every horror movie I used to see, they stopped about 4 years ago, but every horror movie you saw where there was a black person in the movie, the monster killed the black person first. And so the black person can't be a big star because they're dead in the first 7 minutes. And you just see this. And I said, well, they got paid, the actor or actress got paid less because they were on less. They had fewer words. And everybody black sees this. We see it. And you think it's not all that harmful that in bad movies that black people get killed first. But it is. And this society is just full of these kind of guttural, evil acts parading as, I don't know what they parade as. But I tell you, everyone needs to teach their children. I try to be a child advocate, and I wish everybody else would try. You need to try to be an advocate. So here we have this discussion. You bring it up. The mother's sitting there looking at GoLocal. She should call in her son or daughter and say, this is bad, should not happen in this society, and I pray you'll never do this, ever. Because having taught, I've checked 1,200 diversity workshops.
1,200.
In my lifetime.
Wow.
It was hard to get the number, but I got it. Would you believe 95% of people who come to my workshops, particularly police and fire, tell me they've never had a serious discussion about race? And serious is not in the bar with your friend who's not a diversity officer, never with the HR person. And that's the kind of society we live in. So you have all these racist things coming at children, and seldom do the parents stop and push back. So yes, this is a teaching moment. And when you first asked me if I'd come, I said to myself, I don't know if I voiced it to you. No, I don't want to do that. And then I said, yes, I do. You always want to get up when you can say, this is wrong, and we need to pause, and then we need to do something. And I want to say this again. I'm doing all the talking or too much of it, but not just pause and say to yourself, I would never do that, which is what people say, whether it's true or not. They don't know if it's true because they get in the wrong setting, and they're with the posse, and Lord knows what they might do. And they also think they're in an all-white environment. I said this to you, and that no one's going to tell. Yes, they are at some point, and they may not tell GoLocal, but they're going to tell people. We've had a couple journalists lately get caught doing racist things, saying racist things. And I think each one of them should figure out how to come out in public and say something other than I'm sorry, and to do something. And I gave you something that sounds trite. Going over to the John Hope Center, to the folks there are almost all black, older senior citizens, they come for lunch 3-4 days a week. Go over there and say, you know, I'm a TV personality, I'm a newspaper personality, and I want to do something for people of color to make up for the harm caused.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to come in. I know we'll have you in this Friday to give your big view, but in light of the reporting today in GoLocal, wanted to have you here in studio, so I appreciate your taking the time to come down. Ray Rickman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. We'll be back shortly here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, so we look forward to seeing you at the 4 o'clock hour. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.